that even mean, Bowers game?
There, YouTube, I'm back again for another preview video, and today I'm very excited to be showing you Dragon Dell. This is coming to Kickstarter very, very soon. I'll post a link down below. It's for 2 to 4 players, and I've got it set up right now. So we're going to go over the core gameplay and go through all the different phases and show you roughly how the game works. So right now we have a 2-player game set up, which means we won't be using some of these other cards that would allow you to hit more players, but they are in the game for when you are playing with more players. Now, the goal of the game is to complete your village. Your village is going to start off with 1 warrior. So on this side, we got a monk. On this side, we got a fencer. And each of the villagers, each of the warriors and the villagers are going to have their own unique special abilities down here at the bottom. And they're going to have some symbols up here, which we'll explain a little bit later. We also have a villager deck right here, which we've shuffled up at the beginning, and a warrior deck right there, which we've shuffled up at the beginning. And at the beginning of the game, we were actually given 3 warriors each to choose from, and you get to pick which one you want to start your village with. So each game is going to be different with the different special abilities and all that sort of stuff going on. Now, each player is also going to get some of these cards right here. We'll talk a little bit about them later, but you are going to have some starter cards. You will never lose these cards. You'll use them, and then you'll get them back. Around the board, we have some other stuff set up. We'll explain all that as we progress. And you might notice that we have a slight problem in front of both of our players' villages, right here and right here, and that is the fact that there are dragons coming to attack. We have 2 level 1 dragons and a level 2 dragon, which is coming straight at our face, and we are going to need to deal with them in a variety of different ways. But how about, instead of talking about all the setup stuff, we get into the first phase of the game, which is called the craft phase. Now, during the craft phase, you're going to look at the top left-hand corner of all your different characters, and you're going to look for this symbol right here. These are orb banners. These are going to tell you how many orbs you're going to get during the craft phase. So, since I have the monk over here, I'm going to get 1, 2, 3 level 1 cards. Now, these are special ability cards that will do some different stuff. They're magic, they're fireballs, they're going to damage other people's dragons, which is good because you're trying to kill other people's dragons when we get to a certain different phase. So this player would have 3 of these cards, since they've got the monk with the 3 here, and this player would have 1, since they have the fencer. Womp womp. So they get 1, they put it into their hand. There is a hand limit, I believe it's 8. You can only have 8 of these in your hand, and there's only one time, like at the end of this phase, I believe it is, where you have to discard, because we're not going to get too deep into the rules minutia. But once you have these, you now can spend them. So everyone is going to get 2 level 2 cards in front of them, like so. This is your buy row, and 2 level 3 cards. And, oh, by the way, there's a handy-dandy double-sided player reference card, which I always like. So, craft phase, we have drawn our orbs, and we've added our white banners, and now we could purchase some of this if we would like. So we look through all these special abilities, and how you purchase them, it's really quite simple. These are each worth $1 a piece. So if I wanted to purchase this card, I have to spend all of them. If I wanted to purchase this card, I'd have to spend 2 of them. So let's just say this player would spend this, it would go into their hand, these would go into the discard pile, which you can't see, but it's up there, I assure you. And now this goes into my hand. It's a super awesome, useful special ability. This immediately gets replenished. And one thing I want to mention is most of the phases in this game are simultaneous. So while this player is crafting, this player is also going to be crafting at the same time. So now that we've crafted our orbs, and this player only has 1, so even though they would have a buy row out here, because this is my buy row, they would have their own buy row. For camera purposes, we're not doing that. And I also want to mention this is a prototype version of the game I have right now in front of me. So take everything you see here with a grain of salt. It is subject to change by the time it gets to you. But since we're done with the craft phase, and I'm completely done, I can go ahead and put all these cards in the discard phase. Boop! I will get some new ones during the next craft phase. So once everybody's done with the craft phase, actually, before they're done with the craft phase, potentially, you can move on to the next simultaneous phase, which is the breed phase, which is where you are going to draw dragons. Now, you're going to look at this symbol right here with the dragons up there. So these are dragons that are actually going to go into your village. They're not going to go to the area where you're getting attacked. They're going to go into your village, a special area. So this player would get 2 level 1s. Boom. So they go down here. You can also breed dragons during this phase because, it's called the breed phase. It's kind of there. So you drag your dragon cards based on your black banners. And then you could breed them. And how this works, once again, super simple. If you have, let's just pretend that this was our village phase instead of the dragons that are attacking us. We could get one level 4, or we could get a level 3 and then have a level 1. Essentially, you can turn these in and you can make stronger dragons. You can never, however, go down. So if you had a level 5, you couldn't pick up a 3 and 2 or 5 1s or anything like that. So let's just say, yeah, this player is going to go ahead. Well, in a 2-player game, it wouldn't really matter. But we're just going to show you how they're going to turn these in. Boom. And they now have a level 2 dragon in their village once again. Not attacking them, but in their village. And then at this point, you have to discard down to 8 cards. And like I mentioned in the craft phase, and yeah, it's actually on here. You discard down to 8 orbs in the craft phase, and you discard down to 8 dragons in the breed phase. So it's all nice and clear rules of 8. And then we move on to the next phase, which is the command phase. And this is where you're going to take your handful of cards that, once again, I mentioned you will never lose. You'll spend them, and then they'll come right back to you. And there are 2 types. There's the black cards, and then there are the orange cards. The orange cards are going to deal with any humans that you have in your village. More specifically, the warriors, not the villagers. The villagers do different stuff. They're not out there fighting. It's the warriors. So you have battle, which means they're going to participate in the battle phase, and they're going to try and kill other people's dragons. Or the village phase, which means your warriors are going to stay in the village. You won't be participating in the battle phase, but you do get to hold on to your orbs and dragons. Now, the black cards, on the other hand, are ones that you're going to put on your dragons, and you are going to send your dragons to other people, which then they will have to deal with because there's dragons attacking their village. And also, it potentially is going to give you renown, which we'll talk about in a second. So players will do this secretly. So let's just say this one is going to send their squad into battle, and they will also send this dragon at the first player this way around the table. And once again, as I mentioned, if we're playing more players, you can attack people 1 next to you, 2 next to you, or 3 next to you. And they put them down, face down, and then everyone's going to reveal at the same time. So you won't know if dragons are coming at you, or if people are fighting in the village, or what's going on. But that's going to lead to the next part of the command phase, where everyone is going to reveal their commands. So everyone will reveal their commands all at once. And now we're going to award renown. Now, renown is going to be used as a tiebreaker to potentially help you win the game at the end. So it's very, very important. But essentially, whoever sent the most dragons, specifically the amount of power on their dragons, is going to get renown for that turn. So right now, this player is the only player who sent any dragons out, so they would get a renown, which means you take a dragon card, you're going to flip it over to this side so you see the crown, and then you're going to place a crown onto your warrior. Now, later on in the game, you will have warriors and you'll have villagers, and you can put a renown on a villager. However, you can only have 1 renown ever on a character. Now, that doesn't mean that other people would get the renown if you were to get a renown. So let's just say next round, I have renown on all my characters and I still win renown. That means that this player's not going to get any renown, which is still a good thing. But now that we've awarded renown, we're going to move on to the final phase, which is the battle phase. And only players who played a battle card are going to really be participating in the battle phase. Now, during the battle phase, you're going to use a variety of moves in your attempt to discard every enemy dragon. Some of these moves are considered actions, and you are going to have 3 actions during the battle phase. So let's talk about the 5 different things that you can do during the battle phase. First, you can use a character's text on their card. This is a special ability, and this is a free action. It doesn't count towards your total of 3 per turn. Now, a charge is not listed on any cards. A charge, we'll just talk about this action because it's down here, is essentially just you doing damage with your fists pretty much. If you have 1 warrior, you can do 1 damage. If you have 2 warriors, you can do 2 damage. And if you have 3 warriors, you can do up to 3 damage. So, you can have a charge where it's just like doing physical damage. You can use the special ability on your card. You can play tactic orbs. Now, tactic orbs are going to be some of these cards right here, which we haven't really gotten to too much. Remember, we crafted them at the beginning. So this one is a tactic right here. The great thing about playing tactic orbs are these do not cost an action. So these don't count towards your 3 actions you can take on a turn. They're super powerful. You can play these, and it's really just read the text on the card. They're going to do a variety of different things. Most of the time, hurting your opponents. But also, what you can do is you can play a dragon. So dragons that you kept with you down here you can now play in the battle phase, which I totally forgot to mention. So let's go ahead and do that right now, because this player decided to send their dragon to fight. But the other thing they could have done is just use this follow card right here, which allows you to keep dragons with you regardless of whether you choose to battle or village. So imagine it's just like you're keeping the dragon in your village to try and train it and get it stronger so you can send it during the battle phase, which I guess I really don't have to explain too much because it all makes sense thematically. Which is also a good time to explain what should have actually happened to this dragon. So this dragon right here was sent to the first player on your left, which means it would go over here. Now, if this player had been in battle and hadn't been at their village, it would now be an extra dragon that they would have to fight. However, since they stayed in their village to fight any oncoming dragons, this card just gets discarded. But that being said, this character still sent the dragon, so they still get the renown. And don't worry, you can't like team up on people and send just a boatload of dragons, because you're limited to the number of dragons that can be sent to you based on how many people you have in your village. But back to the battle phase. We talked about using your character's text. We talked about playing a tactic orb. We've talked about playing a dragon. The other thing you can do is play a magic orb, and they will say magic on them, and they will deal damage. They will also have a certain range on them, and they can also be modified by certain blue cards to become more powerful. So you could make this magic pierce have extra damage, but you can't play those cards extra. So let's just say you had a poison pierce, for instance. You would tuck that there and say, oh, now it's doing extra damage or something like that. You couldn't just throw the poison. You need the magic, the pierce, in order to do it, if that makes sense. But players are going to take up to 3 actions. Now, the goal is defeat every enemy's dragon. Now, if you're able to defeat every enemy's dragon, then you have won the battle phase. Bully for you! You, in fact, are going to get to keep all the orbs remaining in your hands. If you had orbs remaining in your hand, you get to keep them, which is nice, because everyone else who was involved in the battle but lost the battle is going to discard any orbs remaining in their hand. They get to keep the dragons that they did not play, but the orbs are gone. Now, the big reason why you want to win the battle, though, is you now get to add a character to your village, which is going to make your village more powerful. So which type of character you add is going to be based on what's already in your village. And they have a nifty little guide right here on the back of the rule booklet that'll tell you how to do it. So essentially, you're going to go warrior, villager, warrior, villager, warrior, villager, warrior, villager. And your goal is to get 6 people in there. If you do that, then you will win the game. However, as you acquire more people, once we move back to the craft phase, you're going to reset up the dragons that are coming to attack your village. So, each round that you progressively get a better village, you're going to have more dragons to deal with, to the point where, when you have, say, 5, 2 villagers and 3 warriors, you're going to have 5 level 1s, 4 level 2s, 3 level 3s, and 4 level 1s. It's a little bit like, what is it? I think it's Phase 10, I think it is, where some people are going to have more difficult challenges than other people based on where they are on the game state. But after you've reset up everything for after the battle phase, you're going to reset up how many dragons you have in front of yourself, and then you're going to go back to the craft phase where you'll be taking a look at your banners. So this player actually, since they in theory would have won, would now get 3 villager cards to look through, and they would pick which one they'd want. So most likely they'd probably take one of these because they really want to start getting more orbs, but who knows? Maybe they just want to go crazy on the dragons. And don't forget, there's tons of special abilities in play. So every single time you play is going to be different how you construct your village. But that is the basic overview of how you're going to play Dragon Dell. If this looks like it might be a cup of tea, be sure to check out that Kickstarter link down below. Also, if you're enjoying the content, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. Bye-bye.